Okay, hello everybody. I am going to try this one more time. I'm so sorry if you were with me on the first broadcast and had to switch over, but I was having a little bit of technical difficulty on my end. So hopefully you can see me better now, and hopefully I'll be able to see if you're watching on Periscope and want to send me questions. I'd be happy to answer them as I go. But okay, so today I wanted to talk about whether or not you can make money from your blog. It is one of the number one questions I get asked because I always talk about how blogging and social media changed my life, and they did. I changed my career from being a corporate attorney to being a sports broadcaster and now a success coach based almost entirely on blogging and social media. So I absolutely think it has the power to change your life, and I absolutely think it has the power to make you loads and loads of money, but it might be in different ways than you think. So what people normally come to me asking about is about Google Ads and about affiliate programs with companies like Amazon. And so they're talking about the more traditional ways of making money on your blog by placing ads on your blog, text links, having sponsored posts, those sorts of things. Affiliate programs like Amazon, you place them on your site, and if people click through and they buy things, you get a certain percentage of that. Absolutely, you can make money doing it that way, but that's never been the way that I've made money. I do have Google Ads on a couple of my sites. I blog in a few different places, but my businessofcollegesports.com site is probably the site that I've had the longest. I do have Google Ads on there. I think the most I've ever made in a single month on there from Google Ads is $300, and I get pretty good traffic on that website. I get linked to by places like ESPN and Fox Sports and big networks like that, and it's still never been a huge source of revenue for me. So when I get those checks, that's just like bonus money. It's not how I make a living based on blogging. That's just sort of some extra money on the side here and there. So I am not an expert on any of that if that's how you want to make money. I've actually made more money than most of the people I've talked to who do that. So stay tuned in if you want to find out about the other ways to make money on your blog that are maybe a little bit different than what you're used to hearing about. I'm definitely not an expert on how to do it that way. As a matter of fact, I read an article a couple of days ago, which was part of the reason I wanted to do this Periscope, that and this woman was talking about how to set up your blog so that you can make money from those sorts of methods. And she talks about having to have 10 different blogs to make $1,000 a month. So I guess that's about $100 a blog. I mean, I absolutely can do that with my businessofcollegesports.com website. So I guess if I set up other sites like that, I could get up to 1,000, but that sounds like a ton of work to me. And not that my way doesn't involve work, it's just really different. And a lot of it's gonna depend on why you want to be a blogger. Why are you blogging? What is your end goal? Are you trying to leave your 9 to 5 and make whatever this blog is about your full-time job? Are you just trying to make a little extra money on the side? Because what I'm going to tell you that I did maybe isn't the right way for everybody and isn't something you might have the time or interest in doing, but I made enough. I was able to leave a 6-figure job as a corporate attorney to pursue what blogging brought me. So let me explain, okay? This is how I have made money from blogging. It has been the opportunities blogging led me towards. So it used to be that if you wanted to be an expert in something, so for me, I'm an expert on the business side of college football. I'm nationally recognized as an expert on that subject. And it has taken me, I would say, about 5 years to become an expert in that area from the time I really started writing about it till right now. I have a published book with a major publisher that's in every major chain bookstore in the country. I have had paid speaking engagements all over the country. I had a job at ESPN for 2 years as their sports business reporter based largely on that blog. I have gotten a ton of opportunities through blogging, but none of them were opportunities where I made money actually on the blog itself, where I was placing ads or doing work on the blog itself. It's all the opportunities it led me to. So it used to be that to establish yourself as an expert, you had to write a book. That was the old school way before blogging and social media. If you wanted to be considered an expert in your field, you wrote a book, okay? And then you might get asked to come do speaking engagements, or you might get more book deals, you know, and get that sort of accolades that come with being an expert. But now anyone can establish themselves as an expert. And I did it through blogging and social media, and I think that anybody else can do it too. There's like nothing special about what I did. There is a very defined process I followed, and I try to share that with you guys in my Periscopes. I did a Periscope a couple of days ago where I talked about how I got book deals out of my blog, and I'll touch on it kind of briefly here, but the replay of that is also on my website, which is guidemybrand.com. If you go to the blog section there, you can watch the replay, kind of a longer video I did on the book portion, but that's where I've made all my money, is from the book deals, from paid speaking engagements, from paid guest posts on other websites. And that stuff didn't happen in the beginning. I did a lot of work for free in the beginning. I wrote for other sites for free. I did a lot of guest posting, but I did it in some big places. I wrote for Forbes for 2 years as a contributor. I never made a single dime from that. Forbes didn't pay its contributors at the time. They do now, and I'm actually a contributor there again for the second time around, but they did not when I initially started. So there's definitely legwork you have to do on the front end and free work that you're going to have to do, but it will lead to paying work. So I was able to leave my 6-figure job as a corporate attorney and continue to make 6 figures writing for other outlets. And the blog gave me that. That was something people could go look at. It was essentially a portfolio to show them my work and that I knew what I was talking about. And it established me as an expert to the point where a publishing house wanted to publish my book on the subject of the business of college football. So my tips for how to put your blog in a place where you can get paid opportunities to guest post or to go be a regular contributor somewhere, or even for paid speaking engagements, which is something I've blogged a little bit about, and I'll probably do a Periscope on that at some point too. But in order to get these other paid opportunities that come out of your blog, you really got to have a niche, okay? You've got to decide, what is your blog about? It shouldn't just be about living healthy. Okay, that's great, but find the piece of living healthy that's yours, that you're going to own. What is your particular style? What are you doing that's a little bit different? Or what kind of experience do you have in your background that makes your blog different? And it doesn't have to be, mind-blowing. You don't have to have won, the Pulitzer Prize for something that you've done. It doesn't have to be that level. It just has to be something unique and sort of different for you, a different spin for you. It's not like I was the first person who ever wrote about the business of college football. That's absolutely not the case. And there were other books that were out there that touched on the subject, but I had sort of a unique angle on it. I focused really closely in on the financials, and I really got the athletic department side of the stories, and I approached it from a different angle than other people were approaching it from. That's it. That's all you have to do. You have to find that area that you're passionate about and find that different angle that you have. And a lot of times it's just something from your own experience. Maybe you started eating healthy because you had a child who was diagnosed with a disease, heaven forbid, and they were only able to eat certain types of foods. And that changed the diet of everybody in the entire family. And that really led you on this healthy eating crusade. Fantastic. Start weaving your story into your blog. That is what makes you different. That is what will make your blog stand out. So find that sort of niche, that piece of a piece. I used to write about the business of sports, very broadly, all sports. It wasn't until I niched down and I only wrote about the business side of college sports, and really in particular college football, that I started to get all of these opportunities, because that's how people search for information. I gave an example. If there's anybody listening who gets my email newsletter, I sent out an email newsletter yesterday. On Tuesday, I do a newsletter. It's called Tuesday Tips. And if you're not on my newsletter and you want to be, there's tons of places to sign up for it on my website. So if you just go to guidemybrand.com, there's a sign up box at the very bottom of the page. If you're on my blog, I think there's a sidebar on the right-hand side of the page where you can sign up. So Tuesdays, I send tips, just things that I do as part of my everyday life and part of my career that have made a big difference. And so yesterday I wrote about blogging and about this idea that maybe you're wasting your time blogging. And you are wasting your time, in my opinion, if you're blogging about everything. You really got to have that niche. That is what people search for. So I gave the example that when I went on vacation to Colorado this summer, I didn't search, best things to do on vacation. I searched best hikes near Breckenridge, Colorado, something very specific. And that is how people search for information. And so you need to keep that in mind as you're designing your blog and as you're coming up with your ideas for posts. Don't think that by being so specific, you're shutting all these other people out, and that, if you're broad, you appeal to everybody and you'll get more readers. That's actually not how it works. The more niche you get, actually the more readers that you get. It's sort of counterintuitive, and you've got to take my word for it, but I've seen it happen not only for me, but also for other people, and it always works. Having a niche makes a huge difference. So find that niche. Be consistent about your writing. I say you need to average at least once a week or it's not worth doing, and learn how to promote your work. And that's really a couple of the things I wanted to talk through today, is this idea of promoting your work, because that's how you get access to more people. That's how you potentially get access to people who have bigger blogs than you do, who might link back to your blog or ask you to guest post. I mean, that's how it worked for me. I had my free little WordPress blog that I always joke and say nobody was reading, not even my parents. But I was reading other blogs, and when it was appropriate and applicable and relevant, I was tweeting at those people with my blogs, or to ask them questions, or to give feedback on something that they wrote. And I ended up getting my sort of big break going to write for Forbes, because I sent an email to an editor at Forbes about a piece he wrote. He ended up Googling me, found my blog, and then invited me to be a contributor for them. It's kind of crazy how it worked out, but I was thinking through today, like, some things about my process that are maybe a little bit different, and just, I don't know, some of the instincts maybe I have that have worked out for me that are totally teachable and that you can learn how to do too. So here's a really good example. I wrote a piece earlier this week for Labo League, which is a fantastic site, especially for women who are in that millennial generation, sort of right on the edge. I'm on the upper end of the millennial generation, but I still think it's a fantastic resource. Tons of career advice, whether you're working into a 9 to 5 or you're trying to build up a side business. Labo League just has fantastic content. I don't just say that because I write there, but I wrote a piece there earlier this week about how to build up your side hustle, and that is linked to on my website as well. So if you go to guidemybrand.com and go into the blog, you can find the link over to Labo League. But I shared that on my social media. I was lucky that Labo featured it in their newsletter, and so it reached a lot of people over the last couple of days. And I've done a few things with it, and these are the things I want to sort of share with you. So one thing I've done is that there have been a few people who have commented on my article over on Labo League's website. I have reached out to every single one of them directly with a direct message on Labo, asking them what is their side hustle, what do they most need help with. I'm not trying to sell my services to them. I'm just trying to open a dialogue, learn more about them, what they're working on. That helps me with what I'm working on. That helps me when I'm doing my messaging for coaching, and it starts to build a relationship with those people. One of them's already signed up for my email newsletter, so you start to build a relationship with people. But I also noticed when people tweeted out my article. So I saw a woman today who tweeted out my article. Every single person I saw tweet it, who included my handle, I tweeted back at them and just told them thank you. And then one woman, when I clicked on her profile, I realized she does something really similar to what I did. She is an attorney, and so I figure we probably have some things in common. So I tweeted back at her and said, thank you for sharing my article. Would love to chat with you sometime. So much of it is about sort of opening the dialogue. So when you do have people who are responding to your posts on Facebook, or maybe they're responding and commenting on your blog, try to reach out to them and develop more of a relationship with those people. I know there's probably some of you too who are saying, okay, but I don't know if anyone's reading my blog. I was on a message board or in a Facebook group this morning, and I asked people what they most wanted to know about blogging, and they said they want to know if their blog's being read. So chances are, if you're asking me that question, it probably isn't being, but that doesn't mean that you're wasting your time. It might mean that you need to refine your blog and find your niche. It also might just mean you need to know how to promote it better. So the mistake that I see people making in promoting it, one, is that they're not promoting at all. Okay, they feel icky about self-promotion and they're not really promoting it on social media at all. But the other mistake that I see is where they're promoting it, they're not promoting it to people who would be their target audience. So they're promoting it in groups full of bloggers on Facebook, which is great. And I know that you guys share your blogs back and forth and you comment on each other's blogs to try to build up your traffic. But at the end of the day, that's not going to get you where you're trying to go. You need your sort of ideal audience member, or if you're trying to sell a product or service, your ideal client or customer. That's who you need reading your blog. You just don't need anyone reading your blog. You need the people who are going to become regular readers, who are going to comment without you having to ask, who are going to share your link through their social media. Maybe they're going to share it on their blog. So how do you find people? You have to figure out who they are first. You define your niche. So let's say you decide your niche is landscape design, okay? So what you're going to do is, first of all, I would look for people who specialized in something similar to what I did, but not exactly what I do, okay? Because you don't want to look for a competitor. You just want to look at somebody who's similarly situated, okay? So if you're all about landscape design, maybe you find somebody whose blog is all about planting annuals. I don't know. I'm making this up. I'm not like big on gardening, but I try to get out of sports analogies because I know I talk about my sports work all the time. So I try to think of something else. But you want to find somebody who is in like a related field, but not exactly what you're blogging about, and start following their blog and reach out to them and see if you could guest post on their blog and look for those ways to collaborate with them and reach out to their audience. That's really how my blog got bigger. I was on my free little WordPress blog. Nobody was reading it. And I found somebody who wrote on a little bit bigger blog, not like a major outlet or anything, but just a little bit bigger than mine was. So my topic was the business side of baseball at that point in time. This person wrote about a few Major League Baseball teams, about what was happening on the field. So what I did was the business side. What they did was on the field. So we were writing about different things, but I was able to get onto their blog, do some guest posts. They ended up actually asking me to come on and contribute with them full time, which I did. But I reached a whole new audience, and I finally had people reading my blog. So guest posting is huge. And even if you're not guest posting, creating those relationships where those people will link to your work or share it on their social media, that is all huge too. So you've got to define that niche first, because then you know who to start going after. I would also look around at the people who are your competitors. Look at the other people who are blogging on the same topics that you're blogging about and see who's following them. Okay, look at their Facebook page, look at their Twitter account, look at their Instagram account, look at who is following them. Those are your people. So figure out how you can get to those people too, how you can reach out to those people. There's a lot of sort of background research you can do to find out where your audience is hanging out. It's a lot of legwork. But if you want your blog to grow to the point where you can monetize it, whether that's the more traditional methods with Google ads and text links and that kind of thing, or it's like I'm talking about where you start getting paid to go write on other websites and you get paid for speaking engagements, and maybe you get a book deal and you get a book advance. You've got to do all this groundwork in the beginning. You know, the stuff doesn't just fall in your lap. And to be honest, you know, if you've just started a blog all on your own, it's not going to just start all of a sudden showing up in people's search results. Like, you can't just hope, wish, and pray that people are going to land on your blog. That's not how it works. You have to be out there actively finding your audience and building relationships in the industry so that you can get people who do have bigger lists and have a bigger following to share your work with their network. So it definitely takes a lot of work, but it can be amazing. I mean, I was able to leave my job as a corporate attorney after a couple of years of my blogging. I got 2 book deals. I went to Forbes and to ESPN. Now I write for Fox Sports. I'm back at Forbes. I do video work for a group called Campus Insiders. Now I'm a success coach, and I work with people who have a side hustle and are trying to make it into their full-time thing, who want to ditch their 9-to-5. Some of those people are bloggers, some of them aren't. But I've been able to sort of build my career off the back of blogging and Twitter, and I didn't spend a lot of money on it. I mean, to this day, the only money I've ever spent on my blog is buying my URL and then keeping up my hosting every year. That is it. I have never had it professionally designed, and I'm talking about my businessofcollegesports.com website, which is kind of my claim to fame and what got me to Forbes and to ESPN and to book deals and all that kind of stuff. But I've never spent any money on that site. Never. I haven't used a professional design. I've used a free WordPress theme. I mean, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You do have to spend a lot of time. And you have to be willing to make that kind of time commitment. But I absolutely think no matter what your area is, if you pick a niche and you really go after it, I think that you can get all of these things too. So I'm excited to be able to share tips with you, and I see there's a few people with us on Periscope. So if by chance anybody who's on Periscope and wants to ask a question here on Periscope, I would be happy to answer it. Otherwise, I am always available on Twitter at Guide My Brand. On Facebook, my page is Guide My Brand. I've even got a Facebook community. If you want to join that, get in touch with me and I'll get you in that group where we really give each other a lot of support and where I weigh in and give tips more frequently. And if you've got an idea for what my next Periscope should be and what you want to hear about, I absolutely want to know about it. So either tweet me at Guide My Brand or come on my Facebook page at Guide My Brand, or you can email me, Christy at guidemybrand.com, and Christy's Kristi. So I would love to hear from you guys and be able to give you more advice. And I look forward to our next Periscope together. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a fantastic Wednesday.